love the 80s ditty that comes in right here. I like how they had to make sure they put the Casio keyboard background in for this legendary love song. But that is Keithy Boy. If you're watching on video, I'm JT. If you're listening, hi, we're both here. And we are here to talk Powers of Pain versus the Bolsheviks from SummerSlam 1988, my friend. How are you?
You're showing me up by wearing that shirt. I don't have my Bolshevik shirt that Pete sent me. It's in the wash right now. But yeah, no.
We'll get it out.
I know. Well, it's probably wet. But yeah, the Powers of Pain, man. Barb and I never had a problem going on SummerSlam right before the Honky Tonk Man. It's okay. So yeah, no, I'm excited for this. Any chance I can to talk about the Powers of Pain, the greatest knockoff tag team in the history of tag teams.
I've come a long way on SummerSlam 88. I remember, like, as a kid, I didn't really like it. I didn't watch it live. It was just like, I had the tape. I think it's because nowadays I dread the long pay-per-views, right? But back then I was like, oh, it's only like 2.5 hours. It's a bunch of squat. Like, I just didn't get it. You know what I mean? But it's one now that I actually have more. I found my way into some nostalgia for, where it's like one I will throw on more just to kind of.
I was actually thinking at this year's SummerSlam that they really should just go with like a big tag team as the main event, you know? And I think that, I mean, you look at 89, 90, 91, those are great pay-per-views because they have that goofy tag team at the end that kind of just sells the show, and they should have done something like that. But, you know, they could have probably done Han Solo, Sequoia, and Reigns against Zayn and Zayn. Oh, I was gonna say Zayn and
they could have done the Usos.
They could have done the Usos too, but yeah,
I think it's because they have so many other events now, though, that they do that kind of stuff on those events versus like then where they only had so many. And I think they wanted to not have like WrestleMania level of main events probably, and made SummerSlam the tag show. All right, we're paused on the clock right around 48-43. We're gonna go ahead and hit play in 3, 2, 1, go. I think this fits under Ryan's corollary for live watches because it's under 10 minutes, so I think we're okay.
Absolutely.
But this is only you had a live watch this one. So Slicks are still with the Bolsheviks here, but I feel like it's not for long, right?
No, I don't think so. Because there's the big where Nikolai kind of leaves after. Well, he leaves in '88. He takes a little time off, and like Boris is on his own, kind of just JTTS into everybody. And then when Nikolai comes back, like late 89, 90, they break up shortly thereafter. So yeah, and Slick's not with them at WrestleMania 6, I don't think.
No, definitely not. He's gone long before then. I think he's gone right after this. I think it's when the Twin Towers come around. He pieces out of the Bolsheviks, and then he's mainly with the Twin Towers because I don't remember him, like, even at Survivor Series. Like, I don't know if he's with them in that big tag. If he is, then maybe it's when Nikolai leaves, like you said, is when he kind of dips on them. But he does look awesome with the red hat and shoes with the red of the Bolsheviks.
I always like the idea of Slick being with the Bolsheviks, though, because it's just such a contrast. And like, look at him holding the hat over his heart. Like, this is a guy who's supposed to be a pimp.
And like, Russia.
He's a pimp managing 2 Russian nationalists. I really like that. But
it's mainly good. I mean, he was with Sheik and Volkov, right? So he just kind of stuck with them when Boris took over for Sheik. So
he's
a loyal man.
I love the Powers of Pain theme music. Like, never reused again.
Yep. And Baron von Raschke is like one of his only appearances with the Powers of Pain here. The Baron.
The Baron. They don't talk about how Tito brought them in. That's the one thing. I wish Tito had managed them for
that's such a weird thing.
Yeah. Well, he brings them in to get revenge on Demolition, and then it's never heard of again. Pete always likes talking about that, like how Tito brought them in. Look at this. Barbarian and Barb and I never really minded wrestling the Bolsheviks. We never really did. I mean, there was a really good story once where, oh my God, it was a brief period of time where we had the Baron with us, and he was just such a nice guy, and he didn't rib us like Fuji did. Fuji the Stooge would rib us, not the Baron though. It was really great.
I love how Warlord and Barbarian do the classic bang the chest as they come down. I feel my legs. So they're fairly new then. Like, when was the Tito thing? Was that like July?
I think so. Yeah. No, they're very new. I think they're. Yeah, I don't think they had many matches before this. I mean, at least on television, and this is obviously this is their big, big debut, worldwide debut, maybe.
I mean, they're super over. Like the crowd is really into them here in MSG.
Absolutely.
And I feel like they might have had an MSG match before this. I know they fight the Bolsheviks at MSG, and it was on one of like the best of tapes I used to rent as a kid. And I remember it was just like it's. I think it's like a squash, like a legit squash. It's like
no,
under a minute.
they're a total like they would have been a squash. They would have been squashing everybody like up until they started tangling with like Demolition, and then once they become heels, then they end up being the ones that like get squashed all the time.
Right.
But I still loved them. I liked it. See, and as I know, this is controversial statements nonetheless, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Road Warriors. So I always liked Demolition, and I always liked the Powers of Pain, even though they were just total. Well, see, that's the thing. They're supposed to be knockoffs of the
Road
Legion
Warriors.
or the Road Warriors. Yeah. Are they, or are they just doing something different? I mean, come on, let's be honest here. I mean, they actually, and that's where I said the thing I loved about this team and then Demolition is that they could lose, and that's where I was trying to have this discussion,
and they could sell, not just lose.
And I was trying to have this discussion at the lunch where we were at, where I was sitting there having an argument with Sean and Scott, where I was saying, I was like, you don't, definitely Scott, I was like, you don't understand. I'm like, the Road Warriors Andre'd themselves everywhere they went, where they just were like, they look stupid if they lost. So it's like, you have to assume that they're always going to win. And if a team's going to always win, what do you do with them after a while?
Yeah.
Especially once like the Road Warriors went to the NWA, like how are you going to expect Arn and Tully to beat them?
Right.
Or the Rock and Rolls or the Midnights. Like, how is that going to happen?
Well, that's why they created the Powers of Pain.
Exactly.
To make it like they had a legit team.
Yeah. And then they just friggin' lost to them all the time.
So they did fight at MSG in July. So most of these fans had already seen them, which may explain the pop, why it's so intense, because they saw them already destroy the Bolsheviks at MSG. Yeah. I think that's the one that's on the best of tape, is the one I saw as a kid a bunch growing up.
Their first match, though, is against the Demolition.
Oh, really? In July?
In June of '88. Their first match in WWE is a house show.
That's crazy.
In South Bend, Indiana. It's and they win by count out, too. So their first win is over the champions by count out. That's pretty cool.
I mean, they had to have a plan as soon as they debuted that they were going to do Powers of Pain, Demolition, and Mania. I bet they penciled that in as soon as they arrived. Now, I don't know if they knew Demolition would be faces and the Powers of Pain heel. That might have come later, as they realized the Demolition pop wasn't going away. They needed to turn them.
Yeah.
I wonder if the original idea was just to keep these guys faces and be the ones to conquer Demolition at 5. Maybe was the original plan.
I would think it would had to be, but then I actually kind of was talking about that this weekend, where I don't know what was the reason to put Fuji except to just eat the pin, and that's
in the match.
In the match, like that's the only reason they have Fuji in there is to eat the pin.
Well, and I think yes, but I also think it was meant for Demolition to get like true revenge on Fuji for the turn. Sure. It kind of ends the feud that they pinned him, and he fucked his own team up by getting involved when he shouldn't have. Like Gorilla just does it, right? Like it was a bad decision in the end for him to be in the ring.
Now Fuji's with them at Survivor Series in '89, right? With the Powers of Pain, or do they leave?
He's with them until he sells the contracts.
That's
to Bobby.
Right, I was just wondering, like, did he show? Because it's funny they had Demolition hot with them. Then after Mania, they kind of cool off on them. And then it's basically, I think the Powers of Pain are fighting like the Bushwhackers all around the circuit.
Yeah, they fight the Rockers too, or that's that late. That's early '90, right? They fight the Rockers.
Yeah, but then Demolition's like onto the Twin Towers after 5, and then around Survivor Series they heat them back up again with the Powers of Pain. So it's kind of
that Survivor Series is like the most like nostalgic show that you wouldn't want to change because of nostalgia, but the one that makes the least sense when you really look at the teams. Like I would make so many goddamn changes to that card. It's crazy. Like none of it makes sense when you look at it.
Yeah, but I love the Jake.
Yeah, it's like you won't change it because you don't want to take away the memories. But so it's funny. I didn't know the Powers of Pain as I started renting things. As I started watching in '90, they were already split. And then obviously I went back and
they got those 2 awesome costume changes.
Yeah. Yes, although WrestleMania, Barbarian's still in this gear here.
He is, yes.
When he destroys Tito. But I like that concept too. That Fuji sold them all. He brought in the Orient Express, and sold off the Powers of Pain separately. Like, all right, It like was a nice, easy story to follow. Like, okay,
Well,
Fuji
that's
kind of maxed out. He wanted to sell them. Bobby was interested and Slick were interested in singles options, and that was it.
It's funny. Slick ended up getting the Warlord back.
Yeah.
Oh no, he never.
No, he's not with him.
That's right, he never managed them. But I'm just looking at him, thinking, oh,
I know. I almost said the same thing. But
yeah, but no, I mean it's. But I mean Bobby, and then Barbarian obviously getting matched up with Haku is fantastic. And I wish they had stuck around. I mean, I'm glad they both went to WCW and at least had moderate success.
But they don't get there till later. Like they could have definitely been helpful in the 91 into 92 tag division. Like if they're in there in 92 with.
Yeah,
I mean, 92 is just a weak division with the Disasters and Money Inc. Like in the Beverly Brothers. I mean,
no, 92
Powers of Pain were in there.
Yeah, 92's.
Or I mean, if Barry and Haku were in there, it would have been great. Because they could have feuded with LOD too, who could have used someone better than the Beverlys, like for that feud.
Absolutely, and not that there's anything against Warlord, but I just think that Barbarian and Haku are just faces of fear. Like that's just a much better team, I think, than this.
Well, Barbarian and Warlord were kind of similar. Like it was Haku added a variance, like a smaller guy. Do you think the Bolsheviks got too much offense in this match?
Yes. I mean,
I think it should have mirrored. I think the problem is the car is kind of short, but I think this probably should have mirrored MSG, which I think is even quicker than this.
Right. The Bolsheviks should never been anything more than a glorified jobber team.
Yeah.
Nothing other than that. I mean, and that's it, right?
I mean, this is it. It was 5 minutes.
5
Barbarian wins it with the headbutt. The Baron did nothing the whole match. He stared down Slick once.
Friggin' Ozzy Osbourne over here with the hood on, basically.
Do you think he had the hood because they were afraid he'd be recognized? Like I feel like no one really know who he is.
I don't think anybody would have, except like that one guy who remembers Von Raschke.
Right, and then he's gone anyway.
Yeah, he's not around at all. Like, does he?
I think he only has a couple appearances. Like I think he's at that MSG here, and I don't think it's much more.
He doesn't seem to be doing much either here. He's just like, hey, look at these guys, huh? Look at them. I came out with them.
Who had more of a run, him or John Tolos as coach?
Ooh, I think a more memorable run would be the Baron.
You think so? Then Coach?
Yeah.
But I think it's Coach because he's at that SummerSlam match. In 91, that's like the biggest match that either of them were part of.
But then he was running around with the Beverlys for a while, and that was terrible. So
well, he brought them in. That was his debut.
That's horrifying. Then he ended up with Perfect.
Yeah,
John
only
Tolos,
for like 2 weeks.
I know. Yeah. I remember watching SummerSlam. My brother blaming the Coach for Perfect losing the title. he's like he lost it. He did it on purpose.
All right, that was fine. I'll give it a star and a half affair right there.
Sure.
Whatever. It's the best duo on ChroNoSo for SummerSlam, me and you, but we arguably got one of the least important matches. So you're going to hear a lot more from everyone else on much more important stuff on this great program. Ryan's doing an awesome job organizing, putting it together. Give him a shout out. But everyone who contributes is great. So I hope everyone's really enjoying listening to these. I really like listening to them. I think it's a cool way to look at pay-per-views and TV and SummerSlam events, and everyone's doing some awesome work. So I want to thank everyone for checking it out. Be sure to subscribe and follow everything here at the North South Connection, both on YouTube and podcasts. We are out. It's Keithy JT. We'll talk to you soon. Maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe in a month. Some point.
Sometime soon.